Okay, so now we're live. I would like to introduce a few of the members from the American Consulate of Dubai. We have Charlie McClellan. He is the Chief of American Citizen Services at the consulate. And we have Daniela Zadronsky, and she is the Consular Section Chief, and she will also be helping to answer some questions that some of our members have submitted. So I will pass it over to you, Charlie.
Thank you, Jenny. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to take a moment to thank Jenny for setting this up and to thank the American Moms of Dubai for giving us this opportunity to present some information to you about American Citizen Services that we offer here at the consulate. As Jenny said, my name is Charlie McClellan. I am the American Citizen Services Chief here at the U.S. Consulate General in Dubai. I'm a Foreign Service Officer. This is my 5th tour. Most of my experiences have been in Southeast Asia, so I'm new to the Gulf. My family and I arrived last August. This is a 3-year tour for me. I'm here with my wife and 3 children. We're very excited to be here. I'm looking forward to those days when we can interact socially with people more than we are able to right now. But I'm very happy to be here today. I'm very excited to present this information to everyone to hopefully help you understand a little bit more about the services that we offer to American citizens here in Dubai and the Northern Emirates. I'd like to begin just by talking about introducing American Citizen Services here at the consulate. We have routine services, special citizen services, and emergency citizen services. Routine services generally cover 3 areas. Consular reports of birth abroad. Those are reports of, those document the birth of a US citizen overseas. So a CRIBA, we call it in consular terms, CRBA. We offer passport services, passports for adults, for minors, and also emergency passports if people qualify for that emergency passport, if they have imminent travel or a need for emergency travel such that does not allow them to wait 2 to 3 weeks for the full validity passport to come. One thing about adult passports I'd like to mention is that we offer mail-in service. This is all available on the website, and we will share this after our session today. You can, if you are an adult who previously had a 10-year passport, you can submit a passport application by mail without having to make an appointment, without coming into the consulate, through M-Post, and we will send your new passport back to you also by M-Post. So you never have to come into the consulate or make an appointment and show up at the window. You can also drop your adult passport application at the consulate. We have a new Dropbox service that started on March 14th, and that allows you to fill out the application, include a check for the amount. Right now it is, I believe, 405 dirhams. April 1st, the exchange rate changes. It'll be 407 dirhams, so you need a bank check for that amount, the DS-82, your current passport, and you sign and a photo, a 2x2 photo, and you can drop that at the consular, the guard booth there at the consular section, the entrance to the consular section. And we will take those, we process those every day, and then we will notify you when your new passport has arrived. We also offer notary services. We can notarize documents, powers of attorney, deeds, affidavits, any document that requires a notarization. We can notarize those documents here at the consulate. And again, that is the service that is available through appointment, through the online appointment system. We cannot serve as witnesses, though, on those documents. So if you need a document notarized and you need a witness to sign on that document, you will have to bring a witness with you. And often what people do is ask someone in the waiting room. Many times those documents, they don't require the person to be identified or anything like that. They just need someone to sign, witnessing that you signed that document, and you can call a witness from the waiting room if someone is willing to do that. Special citizen services include assistance to Americans who have been arrested in Dubai or the Northern Emirates. We liaise with local law enforcement to visit Americans who have been detained or arrested here in our consular district. We also visit Americans in prison, and those visits occur generally every few months, depending on how long that American citizen has been incarcerated. We will conduct regular periodic visits to Americans who are imprisoned here in Dubai or the Northern Emirates. We also provide services in the unfortunate event of a death of American overseas. We can provide a consular report of death of an American abroad. That's called a CRODA. And we also liaise with local mortuary services to handle issues such as repatriation of remains of Americans back to the United States. Welfare and whereabouts visits. Sometimes Americans are stranded here or through other circumstances are unable to return to the United States, and their family members become worried about them. They reach out to the consulate. We can then conduct visits to those individuals and ensure their safety and well-being, and then report back to family members in the United States about their relatives here in Dubai. We have an attorney list that's available on our site. So if you are involved in some sort of legal issue here in Dubai or the Northern Emirates, while we cannot advocate for you legally, we do have a list of attorneys who have in the past offered their services to American citizens. We also maintain a hospital list, a list of medical providers here. So if you need to seek medical attention, we have a list of doctors and hospitals and clinics throughout Dubai and the Northern Emirates that we can provide to you. Emergency citizen services, as I mentioned earlier, we can issue emergency passports in the event that you need to travel before a full validity passport arrives. Those emergency passports, they're called EPDPs. They're printed here at the consulate or at the embassy in Abu Dhabi, are valid for 12 months or less, depending on the circumstances. And we can issue those sometimes same day. We generally like to have 24, 48 hours to give our staff some time to process those passports and print them here. And as Danny mentioned earlier, if you apply for an emergency passport, we strongly urge you to also apply for the full validity passport at the same time, which you can do. It's all one service. So you could apply for the emergency passport using a DS-82 or a DS-11. Those are the forms, the passport applications. And at the same time, submit a DS-5504, which is another document. I'm going to spit out a lot of names of forms here, and we can provide that information by email and after the virtual chat and QA here, so that if you're using an emergency passport for imminent travel, when you return, generally within 2 to 3 weeks, that full validity passport will be here waiting for you, and you can apply for that at no extra charge. So you'd pay one fee to get the emergency passport, and that same fee covers the processing of a full validity passport that will then take 2 to 3 or 4 weeks to come into the consulate. In very extreme circumstances, we can offer repatriation services. If American citizens become destitute and would like to return to the United States, we have the ability to provide a repatriation loan. There are also emergency medical and destitution assistance that is provided by the State Department. And again, those are under extreme circumstances. If you are, or if any American is in a situation where they need a loan like that, we We ask you to come in, we will talk to you, we will understand your circumstances, and then work with the State Department to provide that emergency financial assistance to you. I'd like to talk a little bit now about our appointment system. And I know that there are probably going to be many questions about the appointment system. Generally, routine appointments are available online. So if you go to our website and you choose which service you want, it's either a passport or a consular report of birth abroad, or you can select notarial and other services, other non-passport services. So you would go to our website and make an appointment. That website has a calendar which shows the dates and times that are available. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a moment about the availability of appointments. If you need an emergency appointment, we ask that you write to Dubai ACS@state.gov, and in the subject line, just say urgent emergency appointment requested, and then in the body of your email, state the nature of your emergency. We have a correspondence team here in the American Citizen Services unit that will respond to that email. I'm also covering that mailbox. Generally, emergency appointments are granted for life and death emergencies, extreme financial hardship, humanitarian issues, or imminent travel with proof of that imminent travel. So if you have imminent travel within the next 2 weeks and you can provide proof of a purchased and booked travel itinerary, we can bring you in for an emergency appointment, for example, to get that emergency passport. Humanitarian issues, someone mentioned earlier, if a relative is sick in the United States, obviously we're not going to make you wait 3 or 4 months if there is a critically ill relative in the United States. Just send us an email, explain the nature of that emergency, and we will schedule an emergency appointment for you and bring you in and try our best to help you as quickly as possible. If you are using the online appointment system and you book an appointment, for example, for May 15th, and then May 1st rolls around, you realize that you'll be out of town or you can't make that appointment, please do remember to go into the appointment system and cancel it. So that frees up the appointment for other Americans who may need it. Demand has been incredibly high following our closure last year due to COVID-19, and it remains high. We are working through a backlog here, so our wait times are long, and if you need to cancel an appointment, please remember to go online and cancel it. So in that regard, if you have an appointment, please remember to save those confirmation emails and your password so that you can log back in and cancel the appointment if you are unable to make it. If you've forgotten the password, you can't remember, you can't log back in, then again, please write to Dubai ACS@state.gov and let us know that you can't make the appointment. Let us know as early as possible so that we can go into the system and cancel it to make that time slot available to other Americans who might need our services. Regarding services and what we hope our customers can prepare for us, we really ask that Americans try to come as prepared as possible. So if you're renewing your passport, have the application, the DS-82 for adults, the DS-11 for minor children. The DS-11 is also for lost or stolen passports. If you've lost your passport, you're gonna have to use the DS-11 and a DS-64. All of this information is available on our website, which forms you'll need. Please, we urge you to use the form wizard that's described on the website when you go to US Citizen Services. Use the form wizard. You can complete the form online, print it, and then bring it with you at the time of the appointment. It really speeds things up at the interview. We find that 90% of delays in services come from those applications that are handwritten. Sometimes there are errors in the email address or misspellings or dates are entered incorrectly. If you're entering the information through the form wizard, there's much less likelihood of errors occurring. Bring your original documents, your original passport. If you're renewing passports for children, remember to bring the birth certificates, the valid photo IDs of both parents, their original birth certificate, or their consular report of birth abroad if the child was born overseas. And as much as possible, we urge our customers to make copies of those documents beforehand. This saves time at the interview. Demand is high, there are people lining up, and if our staff has to make copies at the time of the interview, it obviously takes a little more time. We can make those copies for you, and we're not going to deny you service because you don't have the copies, but it helps speed things up at the window and makes things a lot more efficient for everyone, for you, the customer, and for us providing the service. Remember to prepare exact change. We accept US dollars, dirhams. You can bring a bank check, or you can use a credit card. If you're going to use a credit card, we urge you to make sure that it is working here in the United Arab Emirates. We've had some customers come in and they didn't notify their bank that they will be overseas, and the credit card is denied at our cashier window. So please do check to make sure that your credit cards are working overseas and working here in the UAE. Okay, I'd like to move now to something that I'm sure many of you have been thinking about and you have questions about. That is the backlog in wait times for our services here at the consulate. How did we get here? How did we get to the point where we are right now, where the first available appointment right now online, I believe, is in June for a passport service? First of all, we're working hard to free up appointments where we can. We are offering, this month, we're doing ACS services every Wednesday, which is not normal for us. So we're providing passport, CRIBA, and notary services on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays throughout the month of March. And we are looking hard at opening some extra days in April and May to work on that backlog. The backlog in demand and the long wait times can be traced back to, obviously, the pandemic. We're all dealing with that right now. The consulate was closed to public services for almost 6 months in 2020 after the pandemic hit last year. We began reopening to public services in August of last year, but only for emergency services. Then in the fall, we had a gradual resumption of routine services, and we are now ramping up and providing more and more appointments to American citizens. But obviously, people have been waiting for a long time. People's passports have expired. Children were born at this time. You've had legal issues. Folks have been, you've got home mortgages or whatever other legal issues that require a notarized document. We understand that people have been waiting a long time, and we're doing everything we can to open up more appointments and provide services. One of our challenges is that to mitigate the risk for our staff and for our customers is that we've gone to a reduced staffing pattern where some of us are working from home. As you can see, I'm teleworking today, and some of us are in the office. So we do have reduced staffing capacity, and this also affects our ability to provide services. We hope to get to a point where we can have our full team in the office, but we're just not quite there yet. So we appreciate and we thank everyone for their patience in helping us deal with the ongoing pandemic. We have conducted passport and notary blitz days since December of 2020. Those are days where we will take a non-American citizen services day, for example, a Thursday, and then open up a slate of passport appointments or notary appointments to try and help work through that backlog. And we're looking at the schedule in the coming months to do at least 1 or 2 more of those. April, of course, from April 12th through May 12th, there is Ramadan, and that will create some staffing challenges for us, but we are looking at days we can open up in the next month or two to provide more passport and notary services for our American citizen customers here in Dubai and the Northern Emirates. Finally, I'd like to talk about something that you may have heard of, and it's in most of our email responses. When you write to dubaiacs@state.gov, we have an auto reply to every email that comes in. And that doesn't mean that we're not reading the emails. That auto reply goes out to every email. And the signature of those emails, you'll see something about STEP, the Safe Traveler Enrollment Program. We urge all Americans to enroll in STEP. And why do we do that? If you enroll in STEP, you can receive important safety information about the UAE from the US mission, from us here at the consulate and at the embassy in Abu Dhabi. It helps the teams at the embassy in Abu Dhabi and here in Dubai at the consulate contact you in the event of an emergency. It helps family and friends in the United States get in touch with you if there is a crisis or an emergency here in the UAE or in the region. So with STEP, we urge everyone to log in, to create an account, and then also we urge you to maintain your account regularly. If you're not a frequent traveler, if you're not traveling every couple of weeks for business or whatever other reason, we would urge you to check into STEP quarterly, every few months. Make sure that your account is up to date. You can update your medical history, your emergency contacts, your email addresses, your phone numbers, and things like that, so that in the event of a crisis or an emergency, we can use that STEP program to reach out to American citizens and get in touch with you and provide you with very critical information that will help you during those emergencies. And also it helps us to relay information back to family members or friends that you have listed in the STEP program as people that we can contact on your behalf. I know I've gone through a lot of information here, and I'm sure there will be some questions, but I'm going to turn it back to Jenny now. And please, if you have any questions about any of the information, please don't hesitate to ask. I'm here to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I wanted to ask you, Daniela, did you want to go through any of the questions that we sent in regarding visas, or should we open it up to the question and answer session?
Why don't we start with the question and answer session, and then we can pick up on some of the questions you sent in beforehand. If there's a lot right at the end, we're ready for those as well.
Okay. So thank you, Charlie, for covering. That was a lot of information, but I think it was very much needed and will be useful for our members when they do have questions to reference the website. And if, you know, send an email in, that would be great too. I wanted to ask, what about Social Security numbers? Does this still have to go through Rome?
Social Security numbers, that's an excellent question. We get a lot of inquiries about Social Security numbers. In order to apply for a Social Security number for a child newborn in the UAE, you first need to apply for the consular report of birth abroad and get the passport. Then once you have those documents, you would go to FBU, the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome, at their website, or the Social Security Administration. You request a Social Security number, and they're going to, if you're overseas, they're going to send you an email back which directs you to a consulate or embassy where you're living. So then you would come to us, we would notarize certified true copies of those citizenship documents for the child, and for children 12 or for children under 12 years of age, you're required to mail those documents with the application form. It's an SS5 back to the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome. And then overseas, those Social Security numbers can take quite a long time. I do have some information here. If it's overseas, it can take 4 to 6 months for you to receive that Social Security number. You can, of course, wait to return to the United States and approach the Social Security Administration office in your state of residence. Based on our understanding and outreach that we've done with the Social Security Administration, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to get that Social Security card in the United States. We understand that you may not be traveling back to the United States, so yes, we can certify those true copies for you here. If the child is under 12, you'll need to send the documents into the Federal Benefits Unit at Rome. For children 12 or older, we will send those documents in for you. It's just a weird regulation that the Social Security Administration has. Children 12 or older, we do the legwork for you. You would still need to bring in the citizenship documents. We notarize copies. You fill out the Social Security form, and then we would mail those documents to the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome. And then again, there's a 4 to 6 month wait.
Okay.
If you, sorry, I just got one more thing about Social Security. If you've lost the Social Security number or the card, or you're unsure whether you applied for that child when they were born or when they were, an infant, the option there is to FOIA your passport records for that child. That can take 12 to 16 weeks for those records to come back. We cannot provide you with a Social Security number. You have to get that through the Social Security Administration or the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome. When you are applying for a child's passport here, we do have a form that you can sign under oath stating that you have never received a Social Security card. There is a regulation now that you have to fill in the passport application with a Social Security number. If you have never received one or you never applied, we have a form that you can sign at the window here in the consulate stating, I have never received or I have never applied for a Social Security card, and you can submit that with the passport application. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
No, it does. Thank you.
Just one caveat for that last item. Of course, if you've lost it or you just can't remember the Social Security number, then the affidavit would not work, because our records will show that there was a number. And in that case, we're not allowed to accept that, memo to send. So if then you'd have to go the long way around and try and figure it out. And then the Freedom of Information Act may be the best way to do it. That gives you access to previous applications where you would have put that number. But again, it's a long and winding road to get there, but that's one path.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, just quickly, I put the question on the Social Security card in the chat, but my daughter was born in Qatar and we never got the Social Security card. However, I did get the Social Security number. So do I apply for a replacement card, or do I apply for it on the website, or where do I go for that?
I would go to the Social Security Administration website, www.ssa.gov/SS number /SS5 DOC, SS5 doc.
Okay.
You can, if you have the number, you can submit that document to the Social Security Administration or to the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome, stating this is the number. You're again going to need copies of citizenship documents. So that would be one parent's, if it's a minor child, and I'm looking at the chat, under 12. Okay, so yeah. One parent's valid photo ID, generally US passport or a driver's license, the birth record, so a consular report of birth abroad, and then the child's current passport. We can make certified true copies. Those are no fee notarial services for any federal benefit. If you're notarizing documents for the purposes of receiving federal benefits, there is no charge for that service. So you still need to make an appointment with us, but we don't charge the notarial fee because that is a federal service. We would notarize copies of those documents, and then you would send them to the Federal Benefits Unit in Rome. and they
Okay.
would issue a replacement card.
Great, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. In an event of an emergency, there used to be a warden system in place that would reach out to American citizens in the UAE. Is that still in place, or how would we be notified if there was an emergency?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you very much. The Warden Network has been replaced by the American Liaison Network, ALN, in which we have enrolled Citizen Liaison Volunteers, CLVs. We, at the consulate here in Dubai and in the Northern Emirates, we have 18 Citizen Liaison Volunteers, and they are primarily resident in neighborhoods within Dubai, Business Bay, Marina, Al Barsha, and Jumeirah. We also have CLVs who cover Sharjah and Ras Al Khaimah. The embassy in Abu Dhabi also has their network of CLVs. Before I go on to what the CLVs do, if any of you or if anyone you know wishes to become a Citizen Liaison Volunteer, please, we encourage you to do that. Reach out to us again at dubaiacs@state.gov, and you can just say, hey, I'm interested in being a Citizen Liaison Volunteer. I know a lot of Americans here. I can contact many people on behalf of the consulate, and what do I need to do? And we will respond with not a form really, but a few questions to get your information, and we will sign you up as a Citizen Liaison Volunteer, and we'd be very grateful for the service. CLVs, Citizen Liaison Volunteers, help us disseminate important information to US citizens throughout Dubai and the Northern Emirates, especially in the event of a crisis or an emergency. And they help us when our ability to reach American citizens like you and others here in the consular district is limited, either because we are simply swamped with correspondence because of the nature of the emergency, or because something, God forbid, has happened. You know, our ability to send emails, phone lines are down, or whatever it is. We rely on Citizen Liaison Volunteers to reach out to Americans in their neighborhoods and provide them with information that can help them in those emergencies, and also not necessarily in emergencies. For example, when we started the M-Post mail-in passport services, our CLVs helped us disseminate that information to their American citizen contacts. And other services that we announced, new services or events that might be taking place, we will often call upon those CLVs to help us get the word out. CLVs, you know, are kind of the boots on the ground. They're people who have been here a long time. They know the country, they know Dubai, they know the Northern Emirates, and they, to be quite honest, have a much better understanding of local culture, local customs, the bureaucracy, law enforcement, medical facilities, and things like that. So CLVs are a vital part of consular services, American citizen services here in our district. We conduct exercises, tabletop, virtual exercises, town halls with the CLVs to update them on critical information that can be useful for American citizens. For example, in April, we're going to conduct a virtual crisis management exercise. It's a tabletop exercise where we will present them with certain scenarios that may take place, theoretical scenarios that would present a crisis for the consulate and for American citizens, and then we'll have discussions, questions and answers, and give those CLVs more information that they can then take and share with their US citizen contacts in their neighborhoods and in their regions here within Dubai and the Northern Emirates. One thing, again, this takes me back to the STEP program. We work with our CLVs to get the word out about STEP. That's the Safe Traveler Enrollment Program, STEP. That's step.state.gov/STEP. And we ask our CLVs to get the word out to American citizens here in the community to enroll in STEP. Again, STEP is a very crucial part of the communications puzzle for us here at the consulate and American Citizen Services in the event of a crisis or an emergency, or simply to get information about services and events upcoming here in Dubai or the Northern Emirates.
Okay, thank you for addressing that. I have another question that was asked by a member on the page regarding appointments for children with special needs. One of the mothers has an autistic child who is nonverbal, and he uses an iPad to communicate. And she had notified she had sent an email before her appointment notifying that he would need to take his iPad in to be able to use during the appointment. Now, what is the protocol? Is the security team at the gate notified beforehand to make it a seamless process of checking in? Can you address this, please?
Yes, thank you for the question. And before I get into the answer, I'd like to say we're sorry that this family and this individual had an unpleasant experience, and we will work hard to do better in the future. We can provide services for Americans with disabilities, for anyone with disabilities. We just simply ask that you give us a little advance notice. We have to liaise with our security staff here, the guards outside the consulate, and with our security officers inside to make sure that they are aware of the situation. So in this particular case, the individual, I believe, was was bound to a wheelchair and also needed to speak using an iPad. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we can allow both the wheelchair and the iPad into the section with advance notice. We need to let our security team know and the guards know that this that a person with disabilities is coming, so that they can be aware. And then in terms of parking, we do have 1 or 2 handicap spaces in front of the consulate. Again, we need advance notice. We would need the make, model, and license plate number of the vehicle arriving, and then we will block that parking space off, the name of the individual or individuals that will be coming in that vehicle, and also the date and time of the expected arrival of that person. And
Okay.
we'll make sure that the parking space is blocked off, coned off for them, and make sure that our local guards and the staff inside are aware that someone with special needs is coming into the section. And yes, they can bring that iPad in, for example, if they use that to assist them with speaking. We only ask that you don't take any pictures or record anything. You would only use that device to assist with speaking to a consular officer.
Okay, so just so it's clear, an email should be sent how far in advance? 2 weeks, 3 weeks before an appointment to make sure it's it's covered?
Well, I think 2 weeks is, I mean, as long as we have a few days notice,
Okay.
that's really all we need. So if someone with disabilities, a handicapped individual has an appointment and is going to need assistance or will need to bring in a wheelchair or other devices that assist that individual to participate in that appointment that they have, if you could just give us a couple of days notice, we can set that up with our local guards.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just wanted to get the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to now open it up to the participants who are signed on. If they want to ask any questions, and then I will move back onto the chat and then take questions from there. So is there anyone who has a question? Amanda, please feel free.
Hello, yes, thank you for taking my question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, my husband is enrolled, or he has completed all of his immigration procedures and is waiting for an interview at the Abu Dhabi consulate. He's from South Africa, so it's a CR1 immigrant visa. I'm just wondering how many CR1 visas are being processed in February and March, and if there's an increase or decrease because of COVID. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Amanda, for your question. Let's see if Daniela or Charlie will be able to advise.
Sorry, I guess unmuting helps in this process. I'm sorry about that. Yes. So as you know, for Mission UAE, all of the immigrant visa appointments are handled by Abu Dhabi. And I checked with our colleagues there earlier this week about some of these questions. And Abu Dhabi tells me they process about 45 to 90 IR or CR1 cases per month these days. Sometimes there's a variation based on staffing constraints and leave holidays and other operational factors. So it's really quite difficult to give an accurate wait time for these, because the National Visa Center in the States assigns cases to Abu Dhabi once they're ready, and then based on their ability to accept interviews or interview slots on a first in, first out kind of basis. They tell me they have over 200 CR cases waiting to be scheduled. And because CR cases are a priority, obviously they fall very early on in the line. They tell me it should not take longer than about 6 months for an interview to come through, but there may be variations depending again on staffing and the COVID situation. But that's what they tell me. It's a priority, as I said. IR cases, so immediate relative and CR cases have top priority. There are competing demands from some cases these days that are subject to some lawsuits. So they're not able to put 100% into all of the IR and CR cases. However, they do remain in the top tier 1 caseload that they're handling right now. So, you know, like I said, 45 to 90 per week, 200 are on the waiting loop, and it shouldn't take more than 6 months, but that may vary. I'm sorry, I can't be more accurate than that at this point.
This brings up another question that was addressed on the page. Now, does that apply to, a lot of people would like to take their helpers while they travel. Also, one of our members has a child of special needs who has a nanny that helps to travel with him to support his additional needs. And they do have an appointment for the H1 visa. Is this something that also is in the same amount of lead time for 6 to 8 months?
No, when we're talking about non-immigrant visas, you know, for tourism purpose, travel purpose, bringing nannies back to the States for temporary amount of time, we're looking at a whole different picture. When we all shut down last year for the pandemic, we were told to suspend all non-immigrant visa services immediately. And in terms of services in the world, American citizen services come first. Once we have that under control in terms of wait times and ability to accommodate services, then we look at immigrant visas, and finally non-immigrant visas. So they're the third tier kind of cases. And at the moment, the State Department worldwide has a phased approach to resumption of visa services. So each post, depending on the local situation, is in a different phase, in a different status. In the first early phase, we couldn't do anything except absolute emergencies, absolute life and death. That was the only thing we could process. In the first phase, phase 1, we were authorized to handle extreme humanitarian emergencies, some medical emergencies, cases with extremely high US interest, and some diplomatic visas, and that was it. We're in phase 2 now. We have a little bit of a wider field that we are able to accommodate, but again, we can only do so on emergency basis and on categories that have been determined to be of national interest. So we're still handling emergency cases, humanitarian cases, diplomatic cases, and US government interest cases, as well as students have been designated as a national interest, as have air and sea crew. So that we can get the planes in the air, that the planes keep going to the United States. We're processing a lot of pilots and cabin crews. And then after that, there's some temporary work visas that are also authorized for national interest purposes. But in general, they still have to have something to do with the support of the United States in the pandemic. So something to do with food services or infrastructure for COVID testing, financial means, public health, something like that. We're very limited in that. Now we are taking emergency appointments. And if you do have an emergency kind of situation or an urgent situation through our GSS visa service provider, you are able, once you've made an appointment, to request an expedited appointment. And we will then vet that through our criteria to see if it meets the level that we are able to accommodate. And then we will be in touch to offer an earlier appointment. But as I said, we're extremely limited as we have to accommodate American citizens first. And only when we have time and ability to accommodate additional appointments are we then able to look at the emergency cases on the visa side. And until we move into the next phase, which is more of a state of normalization, will we be authorized to add and accommodate additional visa services. So unfortunately, the B1, B2 traveler visas for tourism and business purposes is at the bottom of the pile, and we are not allowed to process these right now. There is one option though that we have for folks seeking visas. If somebody has had a visa issued in the UAE before, either in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, and you're applying for the same type of visa again, we have a mail-in service that you are able to utilize. We have just expanded that service. It used to be that you can use that if your visa expired within the last 12 months. As of next week, we're expanding that to visas who've expired in the last 3 months. Now, so that hopefully will take care of many instances. However, again, for nannies, because that's a quasi-work visa, we are required to interview them. So that does not help in that case. Now, for our member who has a medical need for that person to accompany them, I would say, please, yes, try to put in the expedited emergency appointment request. And if we are able at all to accommodate it, we will.
Okay. Is there a separate email? Is there a separate email address?
No, that goes through the provider website. When you're on the website and you've made an appointment, you can just log in with those same credentials and look for expedited appointment request. Okay. And it'll take you through the process. And that then comes to us, and the officers here look at it and then assign appointments if we're able to.
Thank you.
Does that sort of answer the question there?
Yes.
There's a lot to unpack. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know, but thank you. No, I think that covers it. Okay, so I'll move on. Lily, you have your hand raised. I will ask you to unmute if you'd like to ask your question.
Yes. Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon. So just going off everything that I heard, loud and clear, everything you're saying about the B visas, but I'm a US citizen and my son is not. He is a UAE national. So this past year, I've had about 4 or 5 canceled appointments that have just been rescheduling. So, I mean, it's not a nanny situation. It's not like, it's my son that I'm trying to go back home with. Is there no sort of priority for the child of a US citizen, even if the child is not a US citizen themselves? Is that also at the bottom of the pile? And if so, if it's at the bottom of the pile, why not just postpone all of the appointments in the portal until you know that you can accommodate? Because I reschedule, and then a few days or a week before, I'm getting this, your appointment is canceled. So it's been a little frustrating, to say the least, to have all these appointments being set up, and me trying to go back, but then, you know, it gets canceled, and yeah. So I don't really know what's going on when it comes to this whole situation. And I guess it's a unique situation because my son, you know, isn't a US citizen.
Yes, thank you. I can address that. I'm sorry, and I understand how frustrating this must be. Believe me, if we try and we reevaluate our stance and our situation often to see what else we might be able to do. Quick question. So your son doesn't have any rights to a US passport at all? Obviously, that would be the quickest way out of the situation.
Well, I believe that being a UAE national, he can only hold one passport, so he wouldn't be able to obtain a US passport. That's, well, to my knowledge, what it is.
From our perspective, it only matters whether he is, whether his parents have the ability to transmit citizenship, and we would accept that. So that might be something to look into separately. How old is your son?
He's 16 months, so he's about a year and a half.
Okay, so actually in your case, what you can do is you can use the interview waiver program that we have. You can send his application through the mail. So go online and follow the instructions on the provider website for the mail and passport. Anyone under the age of 14 does not have to appear for fingerprinting and can be processed with interview waiver. Right. So that would be the easiest way. Obviously, make sure that the package is complete. You know, copy of your passport, birth certificate, everything that you think might be relevant to this. And he has a good shot at getting it that way. We process a lot of babies and toddlers that way. So that may be an option for you that might work.
Okay,
and
so just log on to...
generally about 4 weeks or so, depending a little bit on, you know, when it's dropped off with the mail and when it gets to us. So it doesn't take too long. But yeah, so go on the GSS visa appointment website, create the application form for it, and then go on to follow the path down to the appointment. And it should lead you towards would you like to do this by mail, by interview waiver, because of the age. Certain criteria in the application trigger that option for them. So that should work.
Okay, so I'm sorry, tell me one more time, what is the website? GSS?
Oh gosh, it's it's on our website, and if you go to visas and look at non-immigrant visas, make an appointment, it takes you straight to that website.
Okay, sounds good. Perfect. Thank you so much.
We can email that through later on as well. It's just a long string of letters, so it's hard to
okay, no problem. Yeah, if you could email that would be amazing.
We will do that.
Okay, yeah, I'll pass that along to you, Lily. I'll get the website.
Thank you so much.
And send it directly.
Great, thank you, Jenny.
Sure. Okay, Farah, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I have the same exact question as Lily, as my son is also Emirati. Now for the GSS waiver program, that applies, this is for a non-immigrant visa. Is that correct, Daniela?
That is correct, yes, that's correct. And only for those either who are under the age of 14, over the age of 80, or who have been issued a visa in the same category in the UAE in the last 3 years.
Okay, so we don't have to complete any type of form or additional documents explaining that we do not want to have a passport for our son, or, you know, so that he doesn't have this conflict of interest as being the son of a US citizen.
That's a whole different process, because if we determine that he's American, he's American.
Yeah, and the way you determine is that
whether he has a passport or not. So
yeah,
but if it comes in as a visa application, unless he was born in the United States, it probably wouldn't come up.
Okay, good to know. That's great. Thank you, Danielle.
Okay, on to the next question. Somebody has an appointment for March 28th and she cannot remember the time, but she emailed ACS, Dubai acs.state.gov, and she has not heard back yet. So what would you advise her to do?
I think I saw that question there. Yes, I took the name down, and I'm going to go into our appointment system after this session and check the time, and I will send an email. If you've made an appointment online, you had to provide an email address, and I will send a confirmation of the date and time of that appointment to that email address that was used to make that appointment.
Okay, thank you, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
The next question, her husband is 67 years old and retired and is starting to get Social Security benefits. She was asked to contact the embassy months before she reaches 62 years old. Is this matter handled by the U.S. American Citizen Services, or who should she direct her question to?
I also saw that question there. I typed a response in the chat, and please send us an email at dubaiacs@state.gov. There's quite a bit of information about federal benefits that we have, and I think it would be easier for me to put everything in an email and respond to you that way than to try and go through all of the information about federal benefits here during this chat. But we do have information, and I will, if you can write to us at dubaiacs@state.gov, you can put it for my attention, Charlie McClellan, and I will address that question as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. Next question is, my husband's green card is still under process. Will this affect his ability to come to the US on a tourist or visit visa before his card is finished?
So I'm assuming that's an immigrant visa that's being processed right now that will result in an immigrant legal permanent residence.
Daniela?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. It's me, it's Stacy. It's my question.
Okay. All right.
You're
You're applying for some kind of immigrant visa, yes?
Well, he's under it's my husband. He's Syrian, and he's under his process for his green card right now.
Yeah,
so our question is it's been 2 years and we haven't been able to go home, and he wanted to come and visit with me in June. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he always was able to do it before, but being that he's Syrian now, and you know things have changed over the past couple of years since he's been to the U.S. So we don't know if now that he's under process, if that's going to affect his ability to come even on a visit while it's still under process.
Well, yes and no. So the thing is, when you're applying for a non-immigrant visa, obviously you're a non-immigrant, right? So you shouldn't have any immigrant intent. When you have applied for an immigrant visa, you know, logically there's some kind of conflict right there, right? However, when we do non-immigrant visa interviews, the officers also look at the whole picture. And the question there would be, at this particular trip, do we believe that you are planning to circumvent US laws and US immigration rules and stay and not come back to complete the processing of your immigrant visa afterwards? So the chances are that if you've traveled successfully to the US in the past without any incidents, then the chances are high that we would probably believe that. And, you know, especially if you have all the details of your immigration process with you. So there is a chance that would not negatively impact it. There will be questions, no question about that. And I don't know how possible this would be through the interview waiver program. Whoever processes the original application for that non-immigrant visa, for that B visa, would probably have additional questions. So we would need to wait for an appointment to become available, I think. But I would suggest, if you think you qualify for the interview waiver program, send it in and we'll see what happens. Again, the adjudicator might have questions, but it may also, if you put in enough information to explain all of the circumstances, it might be enough. But I cannot guarantee it. That's an individual officer decision, and you know, we are not allowed to influence another officer's adjudication.
Okay.
So,
and just to confirm, just like you said in the past, in terms of priorities, that's all the way at the bottom of the list.
All the way at the bottom, yes. And that sort of goes a little bit into, there was a question here on why we keep canceling things. The problem is, while we're under the pandemic restrictions and we're not allowed to process regular type of routine visas like B1s and B2s, we have to be selective. And rather than canceling everyone and then looking for those people we could process, what we do is about 2 months out, we look at everybody who has an appointment, we weed out the ones that we know might fit under our criteria for emergencies, and the rest get canceled. So we at least have, you know, the emergencies, the ones that we can approve under national interest exceptions. We have those going forward. Under certain circumstances, there's still criteria that need to be met. However, if we were to just cancel everything, we would break the system when we resume services, because in any given year, our regular demand is about 70,000 visas, non-immigrant visas. If we just shut that off with all the demand that's out there right now, we would need to be able to accommodate about 100,000 people like on day 1 and 2. And that would just break the system. And that's something we didn't think was feasible. So that's why we're doing this in pieces. And we're looking 2 months out. We're trying to guesstimate at what point the UAE might be in a place where we can go back to something more normal. So at that point, then, of course, we will open way more appointments and we will make everything available that we can to get rid of the backlog and work on that. So as soon as we're able to bring in applicants again without social distancing mandates that allow us to fill up our waiting rooms a little bit more, and as soon as we're allowed to process all visa types again, we will make as many appointments available as we can to work through this. Now, I would still say, you know, try all the avenues. Like I said, try the interview waiver option, ask for an emergency appointment request if you have travel plans. We might be able to approve it if there's capacity. But as I said, I'm sorry, it's just super tough right now. And this is not just here, this is worldwide. I was looking at that the other day, and only about 8% of posts in the entire world are under more normal circumstances right now. So that's it. Everybody else is the same as us or even worse. So, and we're trying, and we are, I promise you all, we're proactively looking at this. Whatever we can do, we do, but we are bound by the regulations, the rules, the local laws, and the pandemic mitigation risks. So please bear with us. We do understand. We all are in the same boat. I want to go back home as well. So, you know, it's the same thing. We're all in the same boat. So bear with us. I promise we will let you know as soon as we can get back to normal.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about the noise construction.
Oh, no worries.
Okay, so our next question, and I think this will be the last question, as I've gone through all the ones in the chat. This one is in regards to a US citizen parent that was not physically present in the United States for at least 5 years prior to her child's birth. Does that mean the CRBA is not relevant in this case?
That's a very good question. So the CRBA, again, is the consular report of birth abroad of a US citizen. And one of the criteria for transmitting citizenship to a child born overseas is that at least one parent had 5 years of physical presence in the United States, 2 of which occurred after the age of 14 for that parent, and all, of course, prior to the birth of the child. If you are certain that you do not meet this requirement, there is an exception to this, in that you can go back to the child's grandparent. So we would urge you to submit the application. If the child's grandparent has the physical presence, we can use that to transmit citizenship. And it's a slightly different process, but the US citizen parent can use the physical presence of their parent to transmit citizenship. If there is no one, neither parent or grandparents have the meet the physical presence requirements, then the child would apply for something called an N400. And again, I would urge you to write to Dubai ACS at state.gov with this question, because it's there's a lot of information in the answer. But in short, you could apply for a kind of immigration visa, and then the child would then, once they set foot in the United States, would go to a USCIS office and qualify for immediate naturalization. There are steps you have to take, and there are documents you have to fill out, but while the child might not be able to get the CRIBA, the Consular Report of Birth Abroad Overseas, there are other steps whereby you can transmit citizenship or apply for citizenship through naturalization immediately upon arrival in the United States for that child. I would urge you to write to us at dubaiacs.gov, and we can give you much more comprehensive information and you know, step-by-step information on how this process works.
Okay, thank
Jenny,
you.
I just wanted to say, I don't know about Charlie, but I'm able to stick around for a few more minutes if there's a couple more questions, so that's fine with me.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. One final question did come in just now, and I think it's relevant, so I'd like to get it through. She has an appointment for her to renew her son's passport. He's 6 years old. Do both parents need to be present during the appointment, and what things do we need to prepare before going? Also, how long is the wait time to get the passport?
Okay, so for minor children, both parents are required to appear at the time of the interview. If one parent cannot appear, there's a form called a DS-3053. Again, if you go to our website under U.S. Citizenship Services, passports, there are links to form wizards. You can fill out these forms ahead of time. The DS-3053 is a statement of consent from one parent consenting to another parent to apply for that passport for the child without the presence of the other parent. That form needs to be notarized, however. We can notarize it, any other consulate or embassy around the world can notarize it, or you can notarize that at a notary public, a notary public that is not affiliated with the State Department or with the U.S. mission. But in general, yes, both parents need to appear. The child needs to appear. We need to see a photo of the child's previous passport, both parents' photo IDs, the application form, and the birth certificate that lists both parents. And the wait time for the new passport right now is about 2 to 3 weeks. It was much longer in the fall when we were getting back to more normal services, routine services. Sometimes these passports come back in 10 or 12 days. We can't promise that. We tell our customers 2 to 3 weeks just to be on the safe side. But yes, within 15 to 21 days, you're going to get that new passport. And you keep the current passport while you wait for your child's new passport to arrive. So the child will not be without a passport while you're waiting for the new passport. If that current passport is expired, of course, then that's irrelevant. But if your son's passport is still valid and you're just applying for the new one, you keep that current valid passport until the new one comes in. We cancel the old one and give them both back to you. Any visas in the old passport remain valid even after you get the new passport. So you're going to get both passports back. If you have a valid resident visa for the UAE and in your son's original passport, that remains valid. We're not going to keep that old passport.
Okay, and I think it's important to mention that the pickup days are still Tuesdays and Thursdays after 2 p.m. for when the passport's finished?
Yes, thank you, Jenny. That's right. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 3 p.m., except US or UAE public holidays.
Okay.
And while we're on the subject, every time a new passport or CRIBA comes in, we will notify by email that the passport is there. However, we have found that not everybody seems to be receiving those emails. We don't know what the problem is. Sometimes they end up in junk or spam email folders. Sometimes maybe we got the wrong email address because there was a transcription error or something like that. But so if it's been about 4 or 5 weeks after you came to us to apply, and we haven't sent you a confirmation, it's pretty safe to say that the passport or the document is probably there. So you can come by and with that sheet that we gave you during the interview and at the application and come and get it. If you can email us, of course, but of course that increases our workload. So if it's been 4 or 5 weeks, it's pretty safe to say that it's there. So come on by and risk it and pick up your passports.
Okay, great. So that concludes our session. This was very informative and beneficial for our members. So I would like to thank you both, Charlie and Daniela. This is really helpful. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. We were glad to do it. And we promised a couple of documents and some emails and some links. So we will coordinate with you after and send